the White House reporters for the first time since the president returned from his big trip overseas. So let's get right to it. The panel with me tonight. Jim Geraghty is here, senior political correspondent at the National Review. Angela Rye is here, CNN political commentator and former executive director for the Congressional Black Caucus. Ryan Lizza is here, CNN political commentator and Washington correspondent for The New Yorker. And Alice Stewart is a CNN political commentator and a former communications director for Ted Cruz's presidential campaign. All right, friends, nothing I like to do more on a Tuesday than sit around the table and watch a White House briefing together. And we got to do it again. What did we learn today? I was wondering and here are my questions going into this first briefing, which we didn't know if Sean was ever going to get behind a lectern again, but he did. Was there going to be a new line on Russia? Now that they're lawyering up and they're reportedly putting together a war room, was there going to be a new response to any Russia inquiry? How is this going to go? Ryan Lizza, what did you hear today?
I didn't hear any new line on Russia. I heard a sort of quasi-defense of the big news since he's been away. That is Jared Kushner being in the middle of this probe.
Yes.
And the big breaking story Friday that he met with the Russian ambassador and sought some kind of obscure back channel using Russian diplomatic facilities. And look, the White House has really not been very aggressive at explaining that story. We had the Homeland Security Secretary over the weekend sort of defend Kushner, but it seemed like he just didn't have the facts. And we had Spicer today talk about, back channels are okay in diplomacy, which of course is true. Back channels, that is a thing in diplomacy, right? I think what's been troubling to a lot of national security folks, and we saw over the weekend some pretty important ones come out and say they were troubled by this, former officials, is that they were not in office, and he was sort of trying to evade the American surveillance of the Russian ambassador.
So let's go there with that. One thing we do know, back channels, not new. Nixon did it in trying to open up a dialogue with China. Kennedy did it when he was dealing with the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I think some of the great reporting is every president since Eisenhower has done it in trying to approach Fidel Castro. So it's not new. What's different, according to John McCain, senior senator, of course, from Arizona, Republican, and many others, is, as you said, Ryan, the timing of it. This was an administration in transition. Right. Barack Obama was still the president. He was still the man in charge. And if this is true, this was an unappointed advisor to the president reaching out and trying to open a back channel with the Kremlin. What did we hear from the press secretary today? Not confirmation, Alice, but importantly, I think here, not a denial of it in any way, just that I'm not going to speak to anonymous sources for information that is not confirmed, that is unsubstantiated information. That's an important non-denial.
Right. I think what we heard today and will continue to hear until this is all over is that, look, Jared has made it quite clear through his attorney he's more than happy to speak with members of Congress. He's more than happy to answer any question we have. Any premature jumping to a conclusion on this is not appropriate.
So why then not come out and say, yes, Jared was trying to open up a line of communication with Russia. You will see, I have spoken to many people today on the left and the right that say trying to open up communications in a back channel, that is not unusual. Yes, timing, different.
Subject matter is
different, but...
The SCIF, the secure location of the Russians is what really makes it stand out. Because he's basically saying, look, let's invite the Russian intelligence services to listen. Let's invite the FSB to the table, but don't tell NSA. Don't tell the American intelligence community that we're having this conversation. And when you're really trusting the Russian intelligence and not the American intelligence, people begin to wonder what side you're on.
But again, why, if you're not going to deny it, if you're not going to, I'm sorry, either straight up lie at the podium and say it never happened. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because they've had 4 days. They've had 4 days to get some sort of answer about this.
But they can't. And so again, I think it goes back to there was great CNN reporting about the substantive subject matter of the conversation. And it has to do potentially with financial issues and the Russians' ability to hold something over Donald Trump and some of his top advisors' heads.
So this is the new thread today. I get so excited I'm levitating off my chair. The Russian government officials, according to CNN reporting, talked about having potentially, here are your words of the day, friends, potentially derogatory information about Donald Trump and their top aides and what they could do with it. How did Intel pick it up? They picked it up between intercepted communications between Russians here and in Moscow. Here's the important caveat with that one. All the sources that CNN is talking to says they do leave open the possibility that they could have been exaggerating or just making this stuff up, and it was part of a larger disinformation campaign. The White House seems to be hoping that the latter is obviously true.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the fact pattern that we have, and every day we get one new nugget that just makes this look worse and worse. Yes. We have a foreign adversary that everyone agrees, even Donald Trump has agreed, interfered in the election, tried to hacked the DNC, dumped emails, benefited Hillary Clinton. Our intelligence community believes the intent was to help Donald Trump become president. If you know that as a Trump advisor, you're going into the administration, what are you doing reaching out to that adversary after that fact pattern? After the American Intelligence Services has said, this country hacked our democracy, they interfered in our election, what are you doing then going to the Russian ambassador and saying, hey, I want to evade American surveillance, so let's see if we can set something up over at the Russian embassy on Wisconsin Avenue.
Okay, so here's...
That's unusual. And then we have a series of officials, of Trump officials, hiding, failing to disclose, concealing their contacts with Russian officials repeatedly. Jeff Sessions, Jared Kushner, and Michael Flynn. Right? So we have a lot of covering up. I don't know that we have an underlying crime or scandal yet, but we got a lot of covering up.
And there's no evidence of collusion that has yet been presented, and that, of course, is always important to say. But again, when we get the drip, 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 people's eyes, they're either laser focused on it and interested in it, or they glaze over and say, I don't know what the hell I'm listening to right now. I don't understand it. Broadly speaking, you clearly saw at the top of this White House briefing a day-by-day TikTok of what the White House saw as the highlights of the trip. They could have also had a briefing or any kind of press briefing throughout the whole trip, and they could have established this as well. I'm just saying. But to this point, there's no focus on that. Yes, the White House can't control where the focus is, but the White House could... I think could do better at trying to divert attention or answer a question so they move on.
I think Sean Spicer was not shocked at all that his effort to filibuster through the news conference with the glowing details of the foreign policy trip were not followed up with, oh, tell me more about the foreign policy trip. It was all about Russia. It was all about potential Jared Kushner's involvement. It was all about the leaks. And clearly he can't be surprised with that. I think what we're going to find out is that the reason they're not saying unequivocally one way or the other what happened, I don't think they know. And we've heard from Jared Kushner's attorney.
Can't get Jared on the phone?
No, he's unavailable. He's so silent, he will not only speak in public, he will not even speak in private.
We've had 4 days in which we had one anonymous source say to Fox News, actually it was the Russians who suggested using the Russian
Let me read the tweets. It's too good, Jim. Let me read the tweets. The president had something to say about this. If this is getting to the Kushner back channel, request or non-request this morning. Here is what the president retweeted today. A Fox News report. Jared Kushner did not suggest Russian communication channel in meeting. Source says. This, of course, is the same exact president who did, oh, I don't know, just 2-3 days ago, trash any anonymous sourcing with this beauty. Whenever you see the word sources say in the fake news media and they don't mention names, it is very possible that those sources don't exist but are made up by fake news writers. Jim, go.
I was just going to observe, that's the sort of thing where that story looks better for Kushner. I still would have liked if the story said, and then Kushner laughed out loud and said, what do you take me for, a fool? Of course I'm not going back to your skip. I can tell that's a trap.
This meeting is over.
Yeah, but we didn't get that in the story, which is a little unnerving that there was not that element to the story. And if Kushner was really the kind recommended it and said, oh yeah, no, let's go back to your place. That's the most secure place where I can hide from the NSA. The best defense is, don't worry, he can't be a spy. He's too much of a fool.
Not only did he not do that, the ambassador followed up with him and said, hey, I want you to meet the head of our bank who's a Russian spy, or we just went to a school for spies.
I leave you with this question.
And he did it.
If Kushner had proposed a back channel on January 20th, would we be talking about this? After they've been inaugurated?
Probably yes, because you still have a bunch of issues with their transparency. Like going to the heart of his tax returns. The reason why financial...
Adeline, don't go there right now.
But I think if you even bring up the fact that there may be something financial at issue, we don't know. When you hide things, this is what happens. This is why transparency in government is critical.
Stand by. Transparency in government coming up. Just kidding. You'll never get it. The chilly Trump-Merkel relationship turns downright icy. What does this dangerous war of words mean? We'll be right back.